This is the Louie T Network. The Redskins Report.
Welcome, all my fellow Redskin brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Redskins fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on a special presentation of the Redskins Report. Not going to keep you here very long. I just had something on my brain, wanted to get it off my chest, and I wanted to know what you felt about this topic that I'm going to pose. And I was watching a lot of the games over the weekend, and I noticed something, and I'm pretty sure you being fellow Redskins fans, if you are in fact a Redskins fan, if you're not, you've been watching the team from afar, you probably can attest to this as well. The Redskins are a team that lacks, playmakers in certain areas. And watching some of the games on Sunday and even Monday, what I noticed is that the Redskins lack two particular players. And not a specific player, not a player, but a type of player at that position that is holding them back. Now, I talked about how the Redskins aren't a good team, and they're not. They're 3-6, and they're not a good football team. They're not consistent. They don't know how to win on the road. They're not a good football team. They're terrible defensively. Yada, yada, yada. Special teams is a mess. This isn't a good football team, but as bad as they've played this season, I feel like if you were to put two players onto this roster, and again, I'm not talking about a specific player. I'm just talking about a type of player. If you were to put two individuals on this football team, I think it would change the fortunes of this team immediately. Now, it's funny because this is the same Redskins, essentially the same Redskins team that went 10-6 a season ago, won the division, won 7 games in a row. But there's a stark difference in contrast to the team last season. And let me basically kind of set the table here, and then I'll breeze through it and I'll get out of here and I'll pose a question to you. If I asked you right now, give me two positions, two impact players that could help the Redskins win right now. And what I mean by that is not Peyton Manning, not Percy Harvin, not a specific player, okay? I'm talking about a position, whether it be linebacker, defensive end, punt returner, kickoff returner, cornerback, safety, running back, receiver, whatever the case may be. Give me two positional players that could impact this team and help turn the fortunes of this franchise around right now, as the roster is constructed right now. To me, it's a pretty simple fix for the Redskins. If you were to put two players on this team at two different positions, I think the Redskins are tremendously a better football team right now, and I would venture to say could easily win the NFC East right now. I'll give you a second to kind of gather your thoughts, and then I'll give you my response to that question. And I want your comments. I want all of the things that are going through your mind as you're listening to this video at the bottom in the comment section, because I feel like the Redskins, without a first-round pick, and that's why I said we've got to turn it up, because even if we don't make the postseason, even if we don't win the NFC East, I don't want to give away a top 10, a top 12 pick to the St. Louis Rams. I want this first-round pick to be as bad as it can be. Okay, it's already going to be a solid pick because we're not a good football team, but I don't want it to be a number 7. I don't want it to be a number 9. I don't want it to be a number 11 pick where they get a quality, top-notch, top-tier college football player to come into the draft and really help their team out right now. I'm jealous. I'm envious. I don't have a first-round pick. And so, yeah, I'm being really vindictive right here. I don't want to give away any good stuff. I want them to get something middle of the road, middle of the pack in the first round. Look, it's still a first round pick, any way you slice it, but I don't want it to be a top 10 jewel that we gave away in this draft. So let it be 18, let it be 16 or something like that. I'll be fine with that. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. This is the way I see it right now. If the Redskins had a premier pass rushing threat, and I've talked about this numerous times in the past. Last year, I was talking about it all year. The year before that, it's been an ongoing problem in Washington. We were hoping that Kerrigan and Orakpo would be a pass rushing threat tandem for the next 5 to 7 years in DC. It's not going to happen. Ryan Kerrigan, while he is very solid and makes plays, and I don't know if he's injured or not. I've heard a lot of people say he may be injured. I don't think he's injured. I just don't think he's getting pressure on the quarterback. He's solid, okay? And he'll have games where he'll be a difference maker, but for all intents and purposes, he's not a 12.5 sack guy in this league. He's just not. Neither is Brian Orakpo, okay? Those numbers that he put up early in his career, phantom numbers. A lot of his stats were accumulated in big games against the Raiders where he would just go off, or the Rams, where he would just go off against a bad left tackle, have 3.5 sacks, and that would inflate his numbers. But Brian Orakpo isn't a guy that gets pressure on the quarterback. You can listen to Mike Shanahan and the Redskins staff talk about, oh, he's coming back from injury, you got to give him time. No, this is what you get out of Brian Orakpo. This is who he is as a pass rusher. He's a 6.5 to 8 sack guy, which is solid in this league, but it's nothing special. We need a game-changing pass rushing specialist, okay? Somebody that can stop the bleeding. Someone that can come up with a big play when the defense can't get off the field. That's what we're missing. You can cure a lot of ills if you got a guy that can get after the quarterback. And so, as bad as this defense is, you get a guy like Robert Mathis. You get a guy like Jared Allen. You get a guy like J.J. Watt. You get a guy that can impact the football game from the defensive end / outside linebacker position. And you've got yourself a playmaking, pass rushing specialist defensive end that can stop the bleeding. For instance, against Minnesota, we just needed one stop at some point. We couldn't get it because we didn't have that one guy to stop the bleeding that could sack the quarterback and not necessarily force a turnover, even though those guys that I just named, they forced turnovers. J.J. Watt had a forced fumble on Sunday versus Arizona. A sack, forced fumble, his team recovered, they got points. That's the kind of guy you need on this team. But again, I'm not even looking for that. I'm just looking for a guy that can get to the quarterback on 2nd and 8, sack him for a 7-yard loss, and make it 3rd and 15. That we needed one of those. We needed one of those on Thursday night, and we simply don't have a guy that can produce that for us. So that's, to me, the one thing we're missing. We need a Robert Mathis type of guy. We need a Mario Williams impact player type of defensive end / outside linebacker. Somebody like a Von Miller that can get to the quarterback and really put an offense in a difficult situation in 3rd and long situations when a team decides to drop back and pass on 2nd and 8. You got a guy that can get to the quarterback and get a sack at 3rd and 14. Now there's not a lot of plays in your playbook. You end up getting off the field with a punt. And that's all we need is a guy that can force the other team into 3rd and long situations or get to the quarterback, force the football out, and that'll clean up a lot of things because pass rush and secondary play go hand in hand. Look at the Carolina Panthers. Their secondary isn't the best, but I tell you what, they've got the best front 7 in the National Football League, hands down. And what that does is it provides that secondary with relief. And so they don't have to cover for that long because Hardy and Johnson and Dewan Edwards and K'Wan Short and the rest of that group, they're getting to the quarterback. Whether you like it or not, they're coming after your quarterback. Good luck. And so you don't have time to sit back there and fiddle around and go through your 3rd and 4th read and give your receivers a chance to play backyard football and run 6 different routes and up and back and out and left and right. You got to get rid of the football. And guys are getting pressure, and it's setting up cornerbacks to make plays, and that's what we need. We need guys that can get to the quarterback, and we don't have one. I'm just asking for one. The Panthers have about 3 or 4 guys that can legitimately get to the quarterback. I'm just asking for one. That's all we need is one guy that can consistently force the issue on the defensive side of football. And we don't have that, and it is killing us right now because you want to blame this defense and you want to say that we're terrible, but yeah, we've got deficiencies. All right, we don't have a playmaking safety. Man, I miss Sean Taylor. May he rest in peace. I miss that guy. I mean, what he was going to be was a Hall of Fame player. I wouldn't even be having this discussion if he were still here. But again, don't want to harp on that. But we don't have a playmaking safety. I feel like D'Angelo Hall has played at a Pro Bowl, borderline All-Pro level this year. So I won't say All-Pro, but he's definitely played at a Pro Bowl level. And I feel like he's played good enough to not be thrown in the discussion of just bad play because he's played really well. David Anderson has been beaten, but he's a rookie. That's going to happen. He's made his fair share of plays. He's got 2 picks on the season, so I don't want to beat him up either. And so we don't have – our secondary isn't as bad as it seems. It's not great, trust me. We could definitely use some upgrades, but it's not as bad. But when you're given 5 and 6 seconds to throw the football, when you're given 3 and 2 seconds to throw the football easily, I mean, you're supposed to put the pressure on the quarterback. 1.8 seconds is how quick the quarterback is supposed to get the football out of his hands before he needs to start looking for an exit strategy, whether it be a dump off or he needs to start thinking about running. You got to get the football out of these guys' hands. I mean, 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds, they should be looking to bail somewhere. That's not the case against us. Guys have chances to go through their progressions and their reads and even come back to guys. Go through their first read, go through their second, third, and fourth, and then come back to the first, and now he's open. Or guys have opportunities to run 12 back to 10 and catch the football. I mean, when you get pressure on the quarterback, 12 back to 10 isn't possible. It just takes too long. But we don't get pressure. So Christian Ponder and the Minnesota Vikings were able to run quick game on us, and it worked to perfection. I mean, Christian Ponder didn't throw for 250 yards on us. He threw for about 150 yards on us. A modest day, but he went 17 of 21 because we didn't put pressure on him, because we allowed them to run nice, short, efficient routes because we can't get pressure on the quarterback. So they were able to run play action fake and let the tight end get 15 yards down the field and throw it to him. They were able to run 12 back to 10 and allow that receiver to come out of his break and have the football be there because we didn't get pressure. And we just needed a stop, somebody to step up and make a play, and we don't have that guy on the roster right now. So that's number 1 for me. Number 2, and I think you know where I'm going with this, but when Richard Crawford went down in the preseason, and this isn't to say that he was going to be the end-all, be-all, and the ultimate solution to our struggles on punt return, but we saw what he was able to do a season ago. I felt like he was starting to fall prey to that Patrick Peterson disease where you bust off a couple of returns early in your career, have some success, and then you want to hit the home run all the time. That play he got hurt on against Buffalo in the preseason, he was going backwards. He tried to spin and reverse field, and his leg got caught, and you don't do that as a return man. You know, there are some times where you can reverse field and get away with it, but he was looking to do that all the time. And I just want a guy that's going to catch the ball and go forward and make a huge play. And watching the league over the weekend, it was just apparent that teams have guys that are difference makers on the punt return unit. I mean, forget about kickoff. Just forget about kick. I'm talking about punts just for right now. A guy, when's the last time we had a legit punt returner? Forget about Richard Crawford because that was a small sample size. I'm talking about a guy that week in, week out, you can rely on. Every single week to give you something on punt returns. Not asking a guy to break a 67-yard punt return for a touchdown. I'm just talking about a 17-yard return, a 22-yard return, a 12-yard return. When's the last time we had a guy consistently giving us something on punt returns? I mean, dare I say Brian Mitchell? I mean, you might could throw Chad, what was his name? Chad Morton in there, maybe, I guess. But I don't think we've had a punt returner that we could rely on in the last, I want to say 15 years, man. It's been a long time since we've had a consistent punt returner in D.C. And it's starting to become frustrating when you look at the Steelers and you see Antonio Brown flipping the field position. You look at the Rams, Tavon Austin, a 98-yard punt return. And you look around the league at teams really getting something out of their special. I mean, heck, look at the game with the Vikings against us. I mean, Marcus Sherrills has been a really good punt returner for the Vikings. And he had a huge return in that game. Ran it back to midfield. And they tacked on a personal foul with Darrell Young, essentially trying to take a guy's face mask off. And so they were at the 35-yard line before the defense even set foot on the field, because you get a 22-yard punt return by Sherrills out the midfield, and then you get a 15-yard penalty tacked on. So that's what special teams can do for you. And to me, I watched a knockdown, drag-out slobber knocker, a absolute heavyweight title fight between the Carolina Panthers and the San Francisco 49ers this weekend. And you want to know who was the difference maker in that game? You want to know who made the biggest impact on that game? I mean, forget about the defenses. We know those two defenses are among the best in the league, okay? These quarterbacks struggled in that game. The run game for both teams was okay, but it wasn't dominant. You want to know who had a great impact on this game? Probably the most single important play in that game? Ted Ginn Jr. That punt return for 22 yards that set up the game-winning field goal for them. I mean, that set up the game-winning field goal for them. I mean, he was dynamic. What else do you want me to say? That's the kind of guy we need in Washington. In a game like that between Carolina and San Francisco, where the final score ends up being 10-9, you need a guy that you need an advantage anywhere you can get it. And for the Panthers, that came via special teams with Ted Ginn Jr. We need a guy that can flip field position. Even if you go 3 and out after you catch a punt at the 18-yard line and you get a 17-yard return, and you punt from the 35-yard line, you flip the field position. Because you're probably going to gain 2 or 3 yards on that possession. You might even gain 8 or 9 and still have to punt. Now you're punting from the 42-yard line. Now you got a chance to pin a team and play some defense. And we don't have that ability right now. We don't have that capability on kickoffs nor punt returns. We're anemic on both return units. And so we gotta find a guy. And the frustrating part is, I watched Monday Night Football, and guess who I saw? Guess who I saw? Sky Dawson, a guy that we had in camp, that we had on our roster, and we let him walk away. And I watched Sky Dawson make plays on punt returns and kickoffs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And you know what I said to myself? That's disgusting, because that guy was on our roster. Now, they got another guy out there, Page, running back punts, and he did a phenomenal job for them as well, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Sky Dawson was a return man in college, and he's got legit 4.3 speed, and he's a guy that can be a difference maker. And for a team that has no one, and I mean no one, on punt returns or kickoff returns that can make a difference, you got to hold on to a guy like that. And I think the Redskins thought they had that guy because he showed us flashes in the preseason. And Chris Thompson, he's scared. Chris Thompson is 5'8", and he doesn't want to be hit. And I don't know about you. I want my punt returner going up the field. You're going to get smashed sometimes on kickoffs and punts. But you've got to be willing to slam it up in there, because when you get a crease, you can't be tippy-toeing and pussyfooting around. You get a crease, you got to be able to hit it full speed and go much faster than slow. And if you can do that, you're off to the races. It's probably a touchdown. And we don't have that guy on our roster. Josh Morgan is abysmal. I'm honestly at the point now where what purpose does Josh Morgan serve on this team? What purpose does Joshua Morgan serve on this team? Absolutely none. He's not a receiving threat for us anymore. His kickoff and punt returns have been absolutely a train wreck. And I venture to say that I'm ready to put him off of the team. He doesn't serve a purpose anymore. So we need to do something. And this year, I feel like it is our duty to go out and get someone that can help us from a punt and kickoff return standpoint. Even if this guy does nothing else but play special teams, we need to find somebody. To me, if you put those two components on our team right now, it would change our fortunes immediately, because this offense is going to score points. Look, you guys can sit there and bitch and complain about Kyle Shanahan all you want. I'm not listening, okay? This offense shouldn't have to score 30, 33 points every week. 27 points should be enough to win in the National Football League. Okay? And he didn't go away from the run against Minnesota, so you can go ahead and put that to rest. We had 22 snaps in the second half. 9 of them were Alfred Morris runs. So you can go ahead and chill with all the Kyle Shanahan bashing. He called a phenomenal game. And if Robert doesn't miss an open Jordan Reed, if Robert and Pierre Garçon aren't erring on a couple of connections, that third down that Pierre dropped, and I think it was a little high and his face mask got grabbed. If guys come up with some catches, we're not even having this discussion about Kyle Shanahan and the play calling. At this point, the defense is the problem. They need to step up. And if we had a pass rushing threat, if the special teams could get involved and help us, maybe the offense wouldn't be under such a huge microscope, having every single minute detail being dissected, including the play calling, which I thought wasn't a big deal in the last couple of weeks. I actually thought Kyle Shanahan has done a magnificent job calling plays. Our defense just stinks. Our special teams unit is a joke. And if you insert guys that can make a difference at those two levels, in the front seven, at defensive end or linebacker, either one, I just need a guy that can get to the quarterback. Take your pick. That'd be nice. And also, give me a punt returner. Give me a kickoff guy that can move the football down the field and flip the field position. Give you some breathing room. I mean, don't you get tired of starting possessions at the 12-yard line? You saw how many possessions the Redskins had against the Vikings in the first half? That was double-digit plays in over 70 yards. You know why we got to drive that distance every single time? Because we don't have a guy flipping the field position. We fair catch the ball even when it doesn't need to be fair caught at the 12-yard line. We catch the football, we run backwards on punts and lose 3 yards. So we got to start at the 14-yard line. On kickoffs, the ball is coming out to the 17-yard line, to the 9-yard line. Luckily enough, they finally put Niles Paul back there and took Joshua Morgan out of there because he was stinking it up. And Niles Paul actually got the ball to the 25-yard line, which is solid. But again, it's not great. You don't expect Niles Paul to break one off and score a touchdown, do you? I know I don't. So we need a guy that's a threat. And we had someone in camp in Sky Dawson that could have maybe filled that void for us. Who knows? Look, at the end of the day, we've got to fix a couple of issues. We need a guy that can get to the quarterback. We need a punt returner. We need some guys that are impact players that can change the face of the game. And right now, we don't have that. So, I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskin spirit will never die. My Redskin spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to the Redskins. If you haven't caught the Redskins name change video, please check it out. I'll be back later on in the week to break down the Philadelphia Eagles matchup, as it is a must-win game for us. And I will see you then. Looking forward to your comments on this situation. And I'll see you later on in the week as we look to break down that matchup, that huge matchup on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles as we look to take care of a little family business. See you then.
The Redskins Report.